Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Jordan and today I'm gonna be talking about something. I'm gonna be wrapping up 2021 and talking about my 2022 plans and goals. I don't have this very scripted or planned out. I'm just kind of gonna look at like Goodreads for what I read last year and anything that sticks out to me, and then I wrote down some goals and plans for next year or this year because it's already 2022. But let's just go ahead and get into it. I don't know if this is gonna be long and rambly or short and like less than 10 minutes, but we will just see. So 2021 was a really good reading year for me. I ended up reading 104 books. It was a busy year for me personally. I had a second baby and I had started a new job right at the end of 2020. So it was a busy year getting to know that new job and just being busy because it was a very time-consuming job. Still is. So I am super happy with 104 books. I always set my Goodreads goal to 52 books because that's the number, like if everything else went totally wrong around me and I had to cut my reading basically in half and I only read 52 books in a year, I would still feel really accomplished about that. I feel like one book a week is super solid. I would be ecstatic with that, but I am even more ecstatic obviously having read 104 books. 100 is always like my stretch goal if things are going well in my life and whatnot. That's what I want to read in my head, but I never put it on paper because I don't need that kind of pressure. So 104 books is great, and that was 35,564 pages. It looks like the shortest book that I read was 128 pages. That was How to Resist Amazon and Why. That's a nonfiction book. And then my longest book that I read was 624 pages, and that's The Rose Code by Kate Quinn, which is a historical fiction book. I loved that one. I did not love How to Resist Amazon, so that's interesting. Average book length was 341 pages, and I would definitely say that that sounds right. I would say not only is that my average book length, I would say that's probably also my like mode book length. My most common is between 300 and 350. It's definitely rare for me to pick up a book that's less than 300 pages or more than 400 pages. So that rings super true. The most popular book I read this year is To Kill a Mockingbird. No surprise there because that's a classic. I actually read that book back in high school and decided to read it again this year. Least popular book was The Anti-Relationship Year by Katie Wismer. Katie Wismer makes YouTube videos. She's an author and makes some book content too, but she wrote this book obviously, and I really love watching her videos of her writing her books, so I am happy to support her. And while that book wasn't like a favorite or anything, I thought it was solid, so would definitely recommend it because obviously a lot of people have not read that one. Average rating is 3.4 stars. That honestly seems to be about the average that I see a lot of people have, so nothing really of note there. The highest rated on Goodreads is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir, which, spoiler alert, was my favorite book of 2021. So I loved it, the people love it, it's an amazing book. If you like science fiction, even a little bit, please pick it up. My first review of the year was Layla by Colleen Hoover. That was the first book I read and I loved it. I gave it 5 stars, so that's pretty cool to have 2 5-star books there to talk about. And then I guess here I can just insert some footage of or screenshots of all of the books that I read this year. I feel like it was very solid. Looking through these books, I see a lot that stick out to me as favorites. Oh, and then it shows my last review of the year was for All Your Perfects by Colleen Hoover, which is a reread for me. I read it the first time a couple of years ago and I loved it. I wanted to read it again, obviously, so that is what I ended my year with. So that is also great that I ended it with a 5-star. I am not going to go through my top favorite and worst books of the year on YouTube. I feel like, I don't know, the time has kind of passed. I know it's only like the beginning, middle of January, but I still feel like we're already into the new year. Nobody really cares about the favorite books, but if you do care what my top favorite and least favorite books are, I am actually going to point you to the Talk Bookish to Me podcast, which is hosted by Gwen here on YouTube, who is a friend of mine. She asked me to join her on her podcast and we did the best and worst books of 2021 episode together. So if you're curious about what my top 5 and bottom 5 books of the entire year last year are, go ahead and listen to that podcast. I go pretty in depth to all of those, as does Gwen. It's kind of a long episode, but it's great. Now, as far as 2022, I am not really a big goal setter, I wouldn't say, in my normal life. Like the last goal that I can remember setting and meeting was in 2019 when I wanted to read 52 books in a year for the first time ever. That obviously went remarkably well because here I am still reading a ton of books every year and loving it. The following year I did like a cooking resolution, had a goal of trying like 52 new recipes. That didn't go as well, so we're just not going to talk about that again. So we're going to try some this year. I'm not going to go super crazy. I also struggle with making goals that are out of my control, so I'll explain that when I go through it. So reading wise, my goal again is to read 52 books. That's my Goodreads goal. And again, if everything else in my life self-implodes, I feel like I can still manage a book a week and hit that, but 100 would be my stretch goal if possible. I would also like to continue prioritizing only purchasing books that are either favorite books or favorite authors. I've just found that I'm not exactly a minimalist when it comes to collecting books, but I would really like my collection to be like my favorite collection. You know, I would love for people to go to my shelves and know that any book they pick off of there is one that I've loved or is an author that I've loved, and so they have a good chance of enjoying it. I don't really feel a need of just collecting books to have them, nor do I feel a need to have a huge owned TBR. I currently only own about 20 books that I haven't read, and I would like to keep it around there for this entire year too, because that feels nice and manageable to me. And then it also makes it so that if I want to try a book that's maybe kind of a wild card, or I have no idea if I'm gonna like it, I can obtain it other ways than just buying it. I can use my library, I can use audiobook apps, and so that is what I'm gonna do. And I'm gonna continue only buying books that I have a really good feeling that I'm gonna like, or I've already read it and it's a favorite. So that's kind of a continuation goal and not really anything that's like specific enough that you can actually hold me accountable to. So it's a bad goal, I know, okay? There is one genre that I would like to read more of this year, and that is science fiction. And that's because out of all the books that I read last year, almost all of the science fiction books I loved, but it wasn't very many. So I feel like I need to explore that genre more, because obviously I'm really liking what I'm already reading, but I feel like I could also really narrow down my tastes more and become better at like recommending sci-fi books, learning the tropes and the authors, and just becoming more knowledgeable about it. Clarification, when I say science fiction, I really mean science fiction. I don't mean fantasy. I know that on BookTube, those get lumped in together a lot, but I really do not like magic. I like technology. So that is what I want to read about. That's the sci-fi I like. And that's the genre that I'm going to hopefully prioritize this coming year. So if you have any sci-fi recommendations, please leave them for me in a comment, and I would love to try those books out. That being said, I'm still probably going to read a lot of mystery thrillers and hard-hitting contemporaries and historical fictions, hopefully just in addition to a bunch of sci-fi. Okay, and now I have some YouTube goals. These again are the ones that I struggle with because a lot of times people make goals that are out of their control, like hitting a certain subscriber count. So I don't really have that. I kind of do though. So I would really love by the end of 2022 to hit monetization on my channel, which feels weird to say. I'm not in it for the money. I just think it would be a nice, you know, milestone. It would be something that's encouraging and validating, and then it would also be nice to, of course, receive a small amount of compensation for the amount of work and time that does go into this hobby. For anyone who does not know, to be monetized on YouTube, you have to have at least 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours. And I think right now I'm around like 730 something subscribers, so I'm getting closer to that 1,000. But the watch hours are definitely the harder piece there, because that's a lot of hours. But I feel like the more content that's out there, obviously the more connections you make, the more people will watch your video. Still out of my control though, so that's uncomfortable to like say as a goal, because even if I did all of the hard work, there's still obviously a chance that it doesn't pay off. So I don't want to put too much stake into it, but what I am going to do to kind of pursue that is this year I want to really focus on more searchable content, which is a tip and advice that I have gotten before, and I understand that logically that makes sense. I just find it hard sometimes to make content that I don't necessarily gravitate towards when I watch it, or I don't find it as fun to make, but I know that it's popular content for a reason. It's what people are searching for new channels for. Like a lot of people will search for January 2022 TBRs, or they'll search for book hauls, or they'll search for thriller recommendations. So all of those types of videos are things that I don't make a lot of, but I want to make more of so that I can be found more easily. So that's the goal, is to make more searchable content, but that of course is going to be in addition to the content that I most enjoy making, which is reading vlogs and reading challenge videos and stuff like that. And yeah, I've got a whole list of videos here on my phone that I am ready to make. I just need the time and the availability to do that. So I don't know, was this helpful at all or interesting? Probably not, but if you've made it this far in the video, I really appreciate you. Don't forget about the wrap-up live show that I am doing on Gwen's channel at the end of January. I talk about that in my January TBR video if you missed that one, but it's going to be a really fun live show where we talk about all the books we read this month. I want to make sure you don't forget about it. But other than that, I don't think I have anything else. So thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in my next one.